Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough, and welcome back to the Summer of Gaming. Today we're going to be delving into the world of movie tie-in games with Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. The original series of books, A Series of Unfortunate Events, were written by Daniel Handler under the pen name Lemony Snicket. Starting in 1999, it was one of those quirky adult book series that could appeal to teenagers, following an orphaned trio of siblings saddled with being under the care of a distant relative, that being the greedy, malevolent Count Olaf, who only wanted to become their guardian because of their fortune. The books were immensely popular, so naturally, in the early 2000s, when Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings were dominating, why not make these books into movies? After a bidding war between studios, it landed in the lap of Paramount, who decided to have Nickelodeon make the film adaptation, based on the first 3 books specifically. After switching directors halfway through production, the producer stepping away from the project due to a difference of vision, the movie was pushed back for about a year until it finally was released in December of 2004. While the movie split critics and audiences, it did make money. For a while, it was Nickelodeon's highest-grossing feature. But the rigorous production of the movie seems to have transpired over to its video game counterpart. After all, this was that period of time where nearly any big-budget movie was sure to have a game tie-in. While the future didn't hold much of a chance for movie sequels, Activision did score up a contract that they could potentially make game sequels if their first venture was successful enough. But it seems like they weren't too hopeful since they cranked out the game in a whopping 6 months for the Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox, Windows, and even mobile phones. To think, playing games on your phone. What a silly concept that those silly 2000s people thought would catch on. Like we'd still be doing that in the 2020s. Pfft, yeah, right. Because of the rush to get the game done, it was ultimately released in November of that year, just a month before the movie's release. Yeah, that's pretty bad. As for who was putting these games out, joining Activision was the now-defunct Griptonite, who worked with Nick before on a variety of games for Rugrats, doing the GBA version. Meanwhile, Adrenium Games, who had a history of doing fantasy movie tie-in games, would handle the console ports. Well, I can't say I ever kept up with the books when they were being released, nor can I say I watched the Netflix show that came out long after the movie, but I do remember watching the movie when it first came out, and I thought it was fine, I guess. I don't know. So let's see if that kind of reputation can translate over to the game. This is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events on PlayStation 2. Well, we start off on the right foot, as this is one of those tie-in games where they actually got some of the actors from the movie to reprise their roles. The actors for Klaus and Violet return, and they even got Jim Carrey to play
I am your beloved Count Olaf.
And hey, they even got Tim Curry himself to do the narration, like for the audiobooks.
The video game you are about to play is extremely unpleasant. If you are interested in casting magic spells or saving the Earth from alien invasions, you might as well stop right now. If a happy ending is important to you, you would certainly be better off with something else.
Unfortunately, though, this is a bit of a double-edged sword, because while it is cool that they got some of these people to reprise their roles, some of the voice acting in this game kind of verges on the bad side.
Expect and deserve, as the Greeks would say, rôti de bœuf.
But you didn't tell us you wanted roast beef.
But you didn't tell us you wanted roast beef.
That's not fair.
Granted, some of the last games I've looked at had way worse voice acting than this, but still, that's pretty bad. As far as the story is concerned, it is a fairly accurate representation of the movie's plot. 3 rich kids are left without parents after a horrible incident, which puts them in the care of Count Olaf. He puts the kids to work, the kids want out, and search for any other relatives they can stay with. Olaf tries to do away with them, you get it. The game is a perfectly fine adaptation when it comes to the plot of the original movie. They found a way to break up the movie's key scenes into a total of 16 levels, often delving into side missions in these main locations from the movie. As far as the graphics go, it doesn't look that good. I mean, there are worse looking games from this era of console, but Yeah, these characters are kind of janky looking. It's clearly not as bad as PS1 graphics had been before, but it's pretty weak looking for PS2 quality. I honestly prefer these 2D storybook style cutscenes when they have major story portions between gameplay. I'm not sure what it is, but there is a Tim Burton level of creativity with some of these visuals, from the black and white color to the fact that it looks like they're being drawn in real time with slight movement thrown in. Another thing I really liked off the bat in this game was the music. It certainly carries that eerie, unsettling storybook feel that the original film's score had. Despite some of those positives, we must look at the most crucial element that makes or breaks a game, the gameplay. Which, surprisingly enough, this game has a ton of variety with. Now, it makes sense that you'd want tons to work with in the span of 16 stages, but boy howdy does this game have a lot of different game styles. You got 2D side-scrolling, 3D platforming, puzzle minigames, collectathon missions, hand-to-hand combat boss stages, even stealth levels. On one hand, I want to commend them for offering tons of variety of gameplay, but I also feel like there's a bit too much going on here. It would be one thing if each level had its own style of gameplay, but no, it'll switch between them throughout each level. First level has Olaf telling the kids to solve his house's rat infestation. Violet uses her knack for inventing to create a device to dispose of the rodents around the house. But before she can make the device, you need to roam around the house and gather up items that she can use to make said device. You switch between Klaus and Violet to get these items, often hidden in boxes. If you run low on lives, you can collect golden hearts, which replenish health, and green puzzle pieces that can be used to unlock extras. I didn't collect all these puzzle pieces, but from what I've read, it seems like there wasn't anything really special aside from some brief behind-the-scenes stuff for the game, as well as some clips and screenshots for the movie. After you collect all the necessary pieces, you then go into this puzzle minigame where you can select the items and assemble the rat-catching machine. And most of the levels play out exactly like this. In total, there are 10 inventions that you can build, and you can reassess throughout each of the different levels going forward. While I do appreciate some of the variety they're trying to add with the different styles of gameplay, it does make the game's story feel a little repetitive after a while. Seriously, every time it goes back to the cutscenes, take a shot every time Violet launches into what she needs to assemble to make these machines come to life.
A spring, a broom, a coffee can, and that boxing glove. All I need is a battery, some shoelaces, and 2 propellers. A screwdriver, a garden hose, and that lawnmower bag. A fishing reel, an egg beater, and a ladle.
Not even joking, they do it so often throughout the game, you will be hammered by the time you're halfway through the damn thing. Inventions that can help you make certain jumps, climb walls, propel items at enemies, and so forth. This also gives you different inventions that certain characters can use, like Violet uses stilts, and Klaus uses these propeller shoes that come in handy for the 3D platforming segments. The one invention that's exclusive between the characters that I really didn't like was this stage where you're Violet and you need to glide with this umbrella thing. Between how long the level itself is, how difficult the jumping controls can be, and especially the platforms beneath you offering so much challenge, it just became too much to deal with for me. Oh, but you can also play as the baby of the trio, Sunny. She's often used for stages where you have to crawl through tight spaces because she's the smallest one of the 3. And I love the fact that they gave her a jetpack so that she can blast up to certain platforms and then gently glide down to ones below. But the thing that really sucks about the Sunny missions is getting hit 3 times and having to redo portions of levels over and over again. It doesn't help that you aren't given checkpoints in this game. When it comes to Sunny, or the other 2 siblings for that matter, you have to keep moving. If you stop for just a second, some kind of projectile or part of the area will hit you from all angles. One thing that sticks out about the level design is how big the levels usually are. On one hand, it is nice to roam and explore. You can really tell they had fun putting detail into these locations. But on the other hand, the thing that sucks about all this space is it usually means you'll be backtracking. You might miss an item and you'll have to go back to find it. You see, stuff like that makes me yearn for the puzzle minigames, because at least it's kind of fun to put these inventions together. Though that being said, some of them are ridiculously easy. Like one minigame has you open up Olaf's trunk and it's laid out like a game of Simon. Then there are these stages that feel like target practice where you shoot discs at creatures and a bunch of Count Olaf's minions. Yeah, you remember this guy with the double hook hands? These boss fights aren't exactly the same, like in a game like Rascal, for instance, but they do get pretty one-note after a while. They usually involve getting close to these guys, hitting them a couple times, all the while dodging their attacks and not getting hit. Like I said before, it is something different each time, but I don't know if I can really say that it's a welcome change of pace. All of this cultivates to the final level, which involves Olaf trying to marry Violet so that he can get their family fortune that way, much like in the movie. And how does the big final level play out? It's another target practice mission where you have to use these long-range items, in this case a heat ray, and shoot the marriage license. All the while you blast Olaf and his cronies whenever they pop up behind props all over this stage area.
Count Olaf has escaped. The Baudelaire parents are still dead, and the orphans are once again on their own. Whatever adventures lie ahead for them are almost certain to be fraught with tribulation, a word which here means heartache, misery, and suffering.
So that was Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events on PlayStation 2. I don't know, man. This game sucks, but it's far from one of the worst games I've ever played. Maybe it's the fact I've looked at some real duds this summer. Maybe it's because some other games I've reviewed throughout the years were worse. But despite this game's flaws, I can't really say it's terrible. If anything, it kind of reminds me of the Polar Express game on GameCube I reviewed many years ago. It's not a very good game, but I think I can muster enough of a recommendation out of it. Maybe others would get something out of it more than I did. The graphics aren't awful, the music is pretty good, the controls are easy to adapt to, and it's far from an angry experience that I've had playing a game. There are plenty of good things here, but there also comes a fair share of annoyances. And hey, maybe some of those things you can look past and maybe you can't, depending on who you are. However, if we're going to compare this to other Nickelodeon games I've reviewed, even the SpongeBob movie game was a notch above this. That also had problems, but its biggest issue was just being difficult half the time. But believe me, when that game was good, that game was damn good. Far from one of the worst games we've looked at all summer, but as a game itself, it's just kind of mediocre at best. Anyway, hopefully we got a better movie tie-in game to look at next time. Oh god. Oh god, no, not that song. Oh god, no, please, anything but that.
The amazing chocolatier, Willy Wonka.
Damn it!
Everybody.
As you can see, I've stocked the place with a multitude of jollies, knickknacks, and paddywhacks for your amusement. I find that giving is the greatest gift of all. Whew. If I had music behind me, you'd be crying right now.